Greetings, Frasier fans, and welcome to Hailing Frequencies, the Joyous and the Jejune, our weekly look at the new Frasier episodes coming out and what we like about them and what is sadly falling by the wayside. I am one of your hosts, Stu.
And I'm your other host, Alastair. How's it going, Stu?
It's going okay. I'll apologize if I'm sounding a little bit. Actually, I'm probably sounding like really rather sexy at the moment, but it was due to a late night out last night, celebrating the old Halloween. How about yourself?
Yeah, good. What have I been doing? I've been very excited this week. I picked up, I'm a big Doctor Who fan as well, and also a fan of my card games. So I just picked up the new Doctor Who decks for Magic the Gathering and had a chance to have a game or two of them. So that was great fun.
Oh, they've released a Doctor Who specific set
Yeah,
for Magic
so
the Gathering.
yeah, all the
Oh
cards in the
wow.
decks are all new art of characters from the show, and we've got one for the old Doctors and a couple of newer ones. And the baddie deck is particularly fun, just spamming Daleks into the game and exterminating everybody. So that's kept me happy this week. Yeah.
Wonderful. I'm going to hold up my hands and confess I have never played Magic the Gathering ever.
Well, that just shows what a big geek I am. But
Well, I
but we've all
know
got
lots of
our
people
hobbies.
do,
There's
but yeah,
yeah. Yeah, it's not a cheap hobby to be into. So just yeah, be thankful
no.
not to be losing your wallet that way.
I've heard there are certain cards that can fetch, correct me if I'm wrong here, but literally thousands.
Yeah, yeah, there are. It's a bit like I guess it's a bit like any of these big collectible things that have had. Magic's always had very valuable cards, but the pandemic had brought a lot of attention to collectible cards in general. So whether that's like baseball cards from the past or game specifically game cards like stuff from Magic the Gathering or Pokemon or any of the other big ones, all of these games now are becoming really quite collectible, and you can sink an amazing amount of money into them if you want to. So thankfully, I'm not too bad, but but yeah, it's one to save your wallet from, definitely.
Wonderful. Well, maybe I'll. The trouble with me, I'm a I'm a collector by nature, and I'm also a completionist. So
Be very dangerous. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, I've got enough fun with the Star Trek starships, the Eagle Moss ones. Like
Oh
one or
yes,
two ships away from a full collection.
always love getting a look at how your collection's going for Star Trek ships, Stu. And I suppose turning our attention to today, maybe we should both be glad that there are neither trading cards or collectible models for Frasier. Although I think I'm lying. I have a feeling that there are actually Funko Pops for Frasier. But last I knew, you couldn't get a Roz Funko Pop, so I don't really know why I would bother. Yeah.
Right. Oh, interesting. Interesting. Yeah, I've got enough collectible things. But let's get on with today's Joyous and Jejune. And before we do go into it, of course, we need to give our viewers the standard warning that we will be discussing spoilers in this episode for episode 4 of Frasier 2023. Trivial Pursuits. I have to be really careful how I say, because for years I called it Trivial Pursuits, just for shits and giggles, and it's
Sometimes these
really
things stick. Yeah.
they do. The muscle memory is strong in that one. So yeah, Trivial Pursuits.
Yeah.
Yes. So yeah. So spoilers. If you haven't watched the episode yet, go and watch it. Come back and watch our our take on it. So yeah, Trivial Pursuit, obviously a play on the words because they've got the pub quiz going on and the, you know, Freddie's career pursuits are allegedly being trivialized by Frasier. So nice little. I like puns. I like plays on words.
We expect only the best from Frasier in this regards, right, Stu?
We do. That's what we expect. Yeah, it's yes, absolutely. So diving straight into this episode, then let's go with the Joyous first of all.
Well,
What was
one of the
joyous for you
things,
about this?
maybe even before we start on the Joyous, is that whenever we get a revival, it's really tempting to focus on who's in front of the camera, right? So who from the cast is back. But a lot of how these shows turn out depends on who comes back behind the camera, who's directing, who's writing, who's coming in from other positions on the show. And we've already had an old hand return to direct the first couple of episodes, I believe, in this. I can't remember the chap's name, but there was a director who had worked on, I believe, had even worked back on Cheers, who directed those episodes. But this episode, I think I'm right in saying, is the only time that we get a writer who wrote for Frasier previously working on the show this season. Tell me in the comments if I'm wrong on that, but a quick look at the Wikipedia, IMDb, one of those things suggested that this was the case. So yeah, before we even start in on the Joyous, I had very high hopes for this episode coming in because I think that the writing on Frasier was almost as important as the performances, if not more so. So big expectations for me going into this one. What did you find joyous about it, Stu?
So I'm just going to pick up on what you were just saying. So the writer in this
Yeah.
episode, was it Christopher Lloyd? To be
I
honest, I've not
don't
been
believe it
looking at
was
writers,
Christopher Lloyd.
directors.
Bear with me a second. I will get the details up here. And I can also try having a check
Christopher Lloyd wrote a
on.
huge amount, didn't he, of the original?
Well, my favorite writer in the original is Joe Keenan, who wrote a lot of the fan favorite episodes. And it's not him either. It is a chap called Bob Daly, who joined the crew of the sitcom Frasier in 1999, wrote or co-wrote 15 episodes of the series. He won 2 consecutive Writers Guild Awards in the category Outstanding Script Episodic Comedy for the episodes Rooms with a View and No Sex, Please, We're Skittish. So, yeah, that is the story with the writer for this week.
Okay, so it came in like about, well, that would have been the 6th season, wouldn't it? 99.
Let's have a quick look here.
Started in
99. Yes,
93.
yeah, about sort of between season 6 and season 7 by the looks of things here. Let me just have a quick look here. Whether I think this is correct, that he is the only returning writer that we know about, at least so far for this season. Because I think all the other scripts so far have been done by people with ties to How I Met Your Mother, which a lot of the crew from this come from as well. So yeah, correct me in the comments if I'm incorrect about this, but yeah, Bob Daly writing here, I think, is the only time that we're going to get. In fact, they've listed writers for upcoming episodes as well. And I think it's right to say that he's the only one who is returning from the original show this season to do an episode.
Right. Okay. Oh, that's an excellent spot. So yeah, I've been very remiss when it comes to writers and producers of this. I will hold my hands up. So joyous. So that in itself is quite a joyous thing, I would say, having an original writer in the.
It is, I think. I have a lot of grumbles about this episode, though, so maybe a mixed bag for me in terms of how it turned out.
Yes, yes. Well, let's stick with the positives first of all. So, I have 3 points that I wanted to mention, two sort of like honourable mentions, and the main one. One of them is not specifically for this episode, and please forgive me if we've already mentioned it on this review. Mahoney's Tap Room, the name itself. What a beautiful tribute. And I feel perhaps you mentioned it earlier when we were talking about the tributes to John Mahoney.
I can't remember if we did or not. I know that we had a chat off, I think, outside of our filming, where I mentioned that some very eagle-eye viewer of the trailer had spotted that you can see it on the door of the bar in one of the trailers.
Right.
But yeah, lovely to see it like very clear, unmissable here in this episode. Yeah, thumbs up from that for me as well. I didn't have it on my joyous list, but totally agree with you about that one.
I absolutely. The other honourable mention in the Joyce for me was the Dalmatian. Wasn't it so cute? Oh,
absolutely.
I just instantly fell in love with that dog. In terms of acting, it was no Moose. Moose being the dog that played Eddie, not Moose, the character in this show. This could get very complicated very quickly. Yes, wasn't the best canine extra I've seen, but oh my God, just heart melting.
Absolutely, and I think we can expect to see more as well, probably from the fact that it's a fire station mascot, right? And I think this episode clearly was telling us we're going to see more of the fire station team, and these characters will pop up again. So, I think we've got the reboot Eddie equivalent firmly installed at this point. Yeah.
Yes, I'll be very happy to see that dog again. But my main joyous point is I thought it was really great seeing Freddie sort of shining as the brighter, super intelligent, learned character. I've had a little bit of a kind of up and down because in many ways, I've seen this as a retconning of Freddie as a character. Now, of course, people can go from like being super geeky, nerdy when they're children to not being any of that when they're adults. I totally get that. 30 years has passed since Frasier started. But I really did feel they rewrote a lot of Freddie's character. Like as a kid, I mean, so many allergies and, had to wear sun hats. This is not that Freddie for me, very clearly. So yeah, so getting clearly he's got that education, that intelligence, that wit. And that was really nice to see in this episode.
And we do get a little throwback this episode to him winning the spelling bee, right? Or being a spelling bee participant. There was a little nod to continuity there. But I think in general, I very much agree with you that it feels like retcons, yeah, are pretty good words. It feels like we audience members will have to kind of live with the fact that Freddie is maybe not as most of us might have imagined he would be in the future. But I think you're absolutely right to say that where they're trying to get the character to is going to really work for the show, and it's gratifying to see them moving towards that over time. Yeah.
Yes. Oh, that, I mean, the spelling bee, when one of the answers to the quiz was onomatopoeia. It
Yes.
instantly brought that back. But I've noticed they've been rehashing, and I suppose it's Easter eggs, isn't it, for the uber geeky amongst us who know Frasier word for word pretty much. There are little lines being dropped in and reused. And I don't just mean Eve's I'm listening. I mean, little things like that.
Yeah, I mean, a good moment for me to throw in one thing from my joyous mentions, which is I did enjoy the Arctic Circle Lilith joke during the pub quiz, which was a very throwback feel to it as well, and the little apology to Freddie when he realizes he's sitting right beside her son. Yeah, it is fun. I think one thing that Frasier 2023 needs to be careful with is that we aren't left constantly saying that some of our favorite moments of this new show is when it just recycles something from the old show. I think it's very early days for them at the moment, so fair, absolutely fair enough to be doing a little bit of fan service and giving us some little nostalgic treats. But I'd hope that as time goes on, we're left sort of less and less just saying, oh, that callback to the previous show was one of the great things about this new episode. So we'll see how that works out over time, but fair enough at the moment.
That's it. Once they've built the bridges, we can move away from them. Yes. What else have you got on your Joyous then?
This was my favorite David episode to date. I thought that the actor did not seem as preoccupied with mimicking Niles, which was nice. I felt it was just a less affected performance in general. I didn't feel it was mimicking other touchstones from popular culture of characters in this vein as much. And I just thought that the orphan subplot, I mean, it's not as good as the finest kind of farce moments of the old show, but it was reminiscent of it enough in a way that I could definitely live with this being like the business as usual kind of standard for the new show. I did laugh out loud at a couple of moments when they had some good misunderstanding. I think when he's talking about, he gets asked, "Is your mother still here?" or something, and there's the kind of moment where he delivers the perfect. The perfect point of misunderstanding where they come away thinking that he's speaking to her in spirit rather than her actually still being alive. And the bike, I thought the bike post credits skit as well was actually really really fun too. So yeah, thumbs up for David in this episode. After we were talking about last time we were talking about kind of our difficulties with that character, and it was nice to see like a very I'm not saying it was perfect by any means, but I think a much better and a very different episode for David this week.
I can definitely see where you're coming from on that, and yes, the actor really made, as you say, it made the character his own, much more, and yeah, his timing. Comedy timing was absolutely spot on. Yeah,
it felt, and I think it felt like he seemed more relaxed, and I think that really helped with the timing, as you're saying. It just felt a little bit less pressured as a performance, and it was a lot more enjoyable as a result. So fingers crossed we get to see more of that side of David as the weeks go on.
Yeah, I can see that. Do you have anything else in terms of joyous moments?
I don't. A lot of my Jejune is a little bit of kind of missed opportunities. So I'm going to be talking about some things that were sort of near misses with joyous moments, I think, when I get to that. So what about you, Stu? Any more joyous moments before we move on?
No, that was, I mean, there were joyous moments throughout, but nothing. I'll say outstanding. Nothing,
Yeah.
remarkable in its truest sense of the word. But following on from your joyous, then we'll move on to my Jejune, which was the whole orphan subplot.
Oh,
Interestingly,
okay.
so I'm going to be really nitpicky in regards to this, but I am a nitpicker. David was introduced because he had brought in groceries from the grocery shop for Frasier to make the cassoulet. But Frasier had already said that Freddie has all the ingredients to make a cassoulet.
Oh,
So that felt like a shoehorn to get David in.
yes. And kind of just a little bit of a lazy mistake as well, right, from a writing point of view. You would hope that that would be caught, and it's a very small fix, right, to not have it be problematic. So yeah, shame to see that slip through as kind of a nonsensical moment. Yeah.
Yes. And because the orphan thing was mentioned, I'm not so sure about Freddie, but it was definitely mentioned in front of Frasier as they were all coming to sit down to eat, because Frasier reacted to them referring to David as an orphan. So why didn't he correct?
Right. Yes. Yeah. No. That I think that sort of passed me by a little bit, but it obviously is problematic for that plot. But I think it's also um it's that kind of thing is a bit of a problem with this episode in general. I think there's a lot of um, a lot of disjointedness going on in many forms throughout this episode, and I think characters saying things as though they're almost as though almost in a peep show manner, almost as though they're voicing things, thoughts in their head, that then are not picked up on by anyone around them or not reacted to or connected up to anything. And I missed this one, but it doesn't surprise me that we get this moment of very disjointed, like, well, this is going on over here, and there's someone here who should be having some sort of reaction to this, but the reaction is not what we'd expect, and it seems a bit weird. And because it certainly, in when we get to my Jejune list, this will be something that I come back to as well. So yeah, good catch on it in this instance, Stu.
Well, I put the blame for that. Well, I put it squarely in two places. But one, most firmly at the director's door, because this is what a director's job is to see this sort of thing and not allow it to happen. But also the fact that Frasier reacted. Kelsey Grammer is an experienced enough actor and a big enough name that he could have said, hold on a moment, why am I reacting to that when I'm going to later say, what was that whole orphan thing about? He should have said himself. So it's kind of a double blame going on there.
Kelsey Grammer is not well served by this episode, and that's all I'll say for the moment. Because again, I'm going to come back to that. But yeah, I agree with you that you would hope he would have picked up and intervened on how nonsensical that moment is.
Yeah. I think I feel. No, do you know what? I'll hold my thoughts until I've heard your Jejune list. I have thoughts on that whole Kelsey Grammer not being served well. I have Yeah, I have opinions.
Yeah.
So let's say your Jejune.
So I felt overall like this episode was like a jigsaw puzzle where someone has smashed all the pieces together in ways that they don't fit. Um, I think the most egregious example of this is Eve's line about her dead partner, which is actually my. I'm going to throw this in now because it's just topical to talk about this moment. My favorite line of the week was actually when she says the worst mistake I ever made was not telling my husband that I loved him last time I ever saw him. That's paraphrasing a little bit. I don't think I got the quote down exactly, but it's something to that nature. And it's just used. It's an incredibly impactful line, extremely important for a character, and it's thrown in as like a slapdash retort to something fairly inane that Alan says to her as a joke. And I mean, it's just squandered and just horribly misplaced. And you can see the actress really struggle with, my character really shouldn't be saying this as like a haha in your face. This was, this is meant something that would be very serious and resonant for her, and it's just completely at the wrong moment. And yet, had it been deployed well, it's exactly the kind of dramatic turn in a comedic discussion that Frasier can execute really, really well and get a lot of mileage out of. If that line had come after an episode where she was back and forth with Alan, with him trying to be like, recurringly bringing up, oh, this was the worst mistake of your life, and various escapades with him trying to really force the point to her that she had got this wrong, and the tension slowly being built up between them of her becoming more and more annoyed, and then an emotional confrontation where she hits him with this like. I can see that being great, classic Frasier stuff. And instead, it's just, I mean, I couldn't believe it when I heard that line used in that way. So,
Yeah.
but I mean, very closely followed, talking of Kelsey Grammer, by the squandering of him working up some wonderful tears, reminiscing about his childhood fears of his father's safety when working as a policeman, and how that reflects on his fears for his own son now. But again, just I mean that conversation with Eve for me just did not work. The comedic beats felt very badly executed compared to classic Frasier. The thing of like him and Niles shadow puppeting the Mikado or something. It was like Frasier humor from the original Frasier jammed in a moment that could have been from the original Frasier, where it was completely inappropriate to try and fit it. Frasier was often very good at doing very, very subtle maneuvering in it. When there was an emotional moment in the show, it could bring humor in, but it was very good at navigating, having that humor land often quite gently, in spite of being very funny in the conversation, and allowing room to maneuver back to something that was more serious. And the side comment about him and Niles and the Mikado and him letting play Niles, like Niles play one of the characters, it felt too long. It felt very clunky in there. It felt like it undermined the moment. And what a shame when Grammer's working up to that kind of very emotional performance to have such naff material coming out of his mouth while he tries to do it. And yeah, I think I could give more examples, but a lot of this episode is just in that vein where it just feels like things are not, things that have potential to be really great are not being assembled in a way that really works at all, which is a shame.
Yes. All of that I put in the director's feet, not in his feet, at the director's feet, definitely. And no, it's interesting you say that was your favorite line. It would have been mine had it not been used as a cheap setup.
Yeah.
That
Absolutely. Yeah.
Gutted the line for me. 100%. I'm with you. It's very reminiscent to me. So some years ago, I directed a play, an Alan Ayckbourn play called Seasoned Greetings. It's set at Christmas, and it's about a dysfunctional family. The details don't need to be gone into. It's been done a lot, that play. And there is one moment in there that is really quite a dark serious, scary moment. But overall, the play is a comedy. All right, it's about family dysfunctionality, but it's a comedy. Every time I'd ever seen that play performed, and it is one of my favorite plays, that dark, scary moment was almost glossed over. It's like, oh, they just say the lines very quickly and get on to the next joke. I didn't want to do that when I directed it. I lent into the darkness and the scariness of that moment because I think, comedy and these heavy emotional moments can sit wonderfully side by side. And I remember sitting in the audience on the opening night of it. And, of course, like a lot of people questioning my decisions at the time. And, is this really a good idea? It's supposed to be a comedy. Audiences won't expect it. I'm like, great. And indeed, when this particular moment came out, I felt the audience froze and held their breaths and were stunned by it. And I thought, yes, that's exactly what I wanted, because it was important to have that emotional moment. And yeah, but exactly what you're saying with this episode, that's what it feels like, is there are these deep emotional moments and they're being glossed over, they're being whitewashed to just get to the punchline of the joke.
And it's a really good context that you put it in, Stu, where it's about trusting your audience, right? It doesn't feel like Frasier is trusting its audience to go with these moments, or to be able to handle pivoting around positive and negative, laughter and tears in the same scene. And I think that it's something that, if the show wants to get close to recapturing the magic of the old run, it's going to have to move towards that. I don't think the version of this show that I see where it swerves that can possibly get anywhere close. In fact, I think it would be a fairly bad show that will be cancelled after one or two seasons. So I think the show, if it wants to have a bit of longevity and wants to get somewhere close to the original, this episode is a pretty good example of what not to do with the more impactful moments for your main characters, and trusting your cast as well. I thought that the actress playing Eve did a really nice job with some of the more emotional moments she was asked to play in this week, and it was nice to see her getting a chance to, even if it was very badly deployed, take a shot at moments like that. So, fingers crossed that this episode is a blip, or a bit of a reminder to change course, and let the actors get their teeth into it.
Yes, absolutely. And I couldn't agree more about Eve. I think, she, as an actor, she shone in this episode. But yeah, was let down, I think, by other forces.
Yeah. And so that was, for me, this was a very frustrating episode, because it felt like the pieces were there, but they were all in the wrong place. And I could see the best episode of the reboot so far here if everything had been rearranged and given the chance to breathe and have the impact that it could have. Frustrating fourth episode for me, and particularly because of the anticipation I had about a returning writer working on it again. So, what was your favorite line, Stu? Because I've already given mine away.
So my favorite line was from Eve, and she said it twice, and the fact that she said it twice, kind of in the way it was done, I thought was really good. Oh, you're sweet, but I'm busy this weekend. Yes. The context of that, it's one of these things, it kind of has I won't say a dark undertone, but a sort of like a more an impactful undertone, because a young woman, standing up in a situation like that is gonna get hit on a lot. So yes, I mean, they made a joke, but there's also kind of a point to that as well, I felt. Yeah. And when she does it again with Alan, that I thought was, especially his response,
yes, yeah,
in your wildest dreams.
there was a nice echo of Roz there for me, and I mean that in the most complimentary way possible to the actress playing her and the writing for that moment. And yeah, thumbs up. I very much enjoyed that as well, Stu.
Yeah, good. I'm going to revisit the whole Kelsey Grammer wasted moment thing. So I kind of have thoughts about kind of the way Frasier, the character, and Kelsey in particular are being utilized in this new season overall. It feels like he's consciously taking a step back to let the other characters take center stage quite often. What do you think on that?
We were talking last week about the kind of disparity in experience on the cast, and I think that certainly Kelsey's left doing a lot of the heavy lifting in scenes, right? Like I think sort of very adjacent to what you're saying is that I often feel like I see him do his best to elevate the actors around them and to give them support in being the best that they can in scenes with him, which I think is appropriate and is really needed in the show because of the amount of experience that he brings to it, and the him being able to be generous of that and be giving in scenes with other cast members is really crucial for the show. So yeah, I think that's sort of where I've landed with Kelsey. I think that sometimes does mean that he has to give space. Well, I'm not sure it goes as far as to say sort of stepping back. I think maybe just sort of like, for me, it lands more as just giving his co-stars opportunity, but then maybe that is just creating space for them. I don't know, Stu. It's something like that. Anyway, tell me more about sort of how you feel about it.
So so there is a difference in those two things. So you can, as an actor, you can create space by sort of stepping back a little bit, sort of metaphorically and emotionally, to allow other actors to naturally shine, or you can, I think you use the word, elevate them. Stand underneath them and deliver the lines in a way that brings them up. And I think that's two different techniques. Where I feel Kelsey is with this, it's like he's almost conscious, and well, I'm saying it's Kelsey. It feels like it's coming from Kelsey to me, but I couldn't say for definite that's what it is. But all the punchlines are going to other people. Almost all the punchlines, anyway. He's become this setup guy. Things like, like Eve's "I'm listening" line, for example. It's the people around him that are getting the laughs. Even though the show is Frasier, it's almost like there's this sub-level where they're trying to say Frasier is nothing without the people around him. So let's focus on the people around him. I'm going quite deep into this now,
No, I completely follow what you're saying, and it's interesting to consider whether whether this is a new show trying to find its balance still, how all the characters are going to fit together, and where the titular character figures in that arrangement. Whether it is more performance based, and there's a feeling that giving Kelsey too many of the punchlines and too much spotlight in the scripting would unbalance the show when there's a lot of cast members with less experience, and also who importantly kind of need to be ingratiated with the audience more because they don't have clout from previously appearing in Frasier to lean on. I think it's a really interesting point you bring up, and it's sort of doubly interesting because it really isn't too clear exactly where this dynamic is coming from in the show at the moment. It certainly doesn't feel that they've found a resting point with it. It does feel a bit of an uncomfortable balance right now, right?
It is a first season, and the first season is going to be introducing these other characters. We already know Frasier. We know who Frasier is. We know where he's come from. We don't need to meet Frasier, but we do need to meet everyone else. So maybe it's a first season thing. Yeah,
it certainly. I'm leaning hard on the jigsaw puzzle metaphor this afternoon, but it really does feel like a piecing together of things that's happening with that as well. I think one thing that they, again, if they want to try and reach the heights of the original run, for me, that show was always at its best when Frasier was the central character of the show, which I don't think he was at various points in the run of it. I think the show suffered at times where it veered away from that. So I think you don't want Frasier to just be a vehicle for other characters having storylines, and you don't want him to feel sort of lost in the whirlwind of events that just sort of sweep him up and drift him along and then leave him, drop him off somewhere, kind of thing, too much. So hopefully there will be more for him to do in the future.
There's an old Texan saying, "Dance with the one who brung you."
Right. Yeah.
I think it's Texan anyway, but yeah. And Frasier is the one who has brought everyone. So yeah, hopefully towards the end of the season, we'll get a bit more Frasier-centric. Frasier. Oh,
Frasier.
Frasier. One last thing just to touch on. I'm going to go a little bit off piece now, but we've mentioned about the original cast quite a lot in this episode. So I wanted to throw something out at you. We know one particular cast member is coming into this season. So fingers in ears if you don't want to hear everybody. I'll do this while I'm saying it, so you know.
If you're a lip reader, close your eyes. Yeah.
Perry Gilpin. We know Roz is coming back. But who, I say, apart from the usual suspects, let's move Niles, Daphne to one side. Who from the original run would you like to see either as a cameo or popping up from time to time? Because I know exactly who I'd like to see.
I'm going to get my cheat answer out of the way, because we do know that BB Neuwirth, who played Lilith, I think is back for an episode as well this season, and I think that's a really good choice for a cameo, and probably even better than Roz. My big fear with Roz's cameo is that it's going to be too good, and that it's going to be a very painful reminder of what rapport that we don't have between Frasier and other characters who are running in the season at the moment. My other fear is that it's going to be bad, and I'll never forgive them for giving Roz a bad episode in the reboot. So, and with Lilith, I don't feel like I have the same fear either way, right? I think that I'm absolutely sure that it has potential to be a great performance, and I think there's you would really expect that there'll be great energy between her and Frasier, and a nice reminder of what the old show gave with them as well. But I don't think it would threaten to overshadow things as much as a great Roz episode that we we have dangled in front of us for just that one episode, and then don't necessarily get again. That could really overshadow things, I think. So other guest stars who aren't Lilith or Roz. And we're saying no Niles or Daphne either.
Take the Niles and Daphne off the table, because they're the obvious, really, aren't they?
I think it's trying to work out who you could bring over that would fit in with the new show as well. Because, for example, I'd love to see a Gil cameo, but I don't think there's any easy way of putting Gil into proceedings in this new show. Who did you have in mind, Stu? Because I feel like you've got an answer lined up already here.
I do, and in the same way, I can't think of an easy way of making it fit without it being a bit contrived. But using Gil as your example, I think it's reasonable that Frasier would be in touch with his old friends, people he'd worked with for a long time, and somebody might come and visit. That's it. It's a trope. It's a bit lame as reasons go, but it would also answer it. Bob Bulldog Briscoe.
Oh,
I want to see what's happened to him.
It would be very interesting. I mean, quite a controversial character from the original run for some fans these days. What sort of prompts you to pick Bulldog? What would you like to see explored about his character, or what's happened to him? Or
well, I suppose I want to see a matured, evolved Bulldog. Someone who is not a caricature anymore, not a male stereotype, toxic male stereotype. I want to see a nice Bulldog, basically.
I mean, I love the actor. I feel bad that his name escapes me. The actor who plays Bulldog is wonderful. So it'd be a real treat to see him doing that in front of the camera again, and maybe a nice chance to get some closure on difficult aspects of that character that many fans now don't look back on particularly fondly. So I can see the appeal of sort of where is he now, and the idea that he's sort of got his life together a bit. And Frasier often got a lot of mileage out of characters who had previously known Frasier, who weren't having the best time in their life, appearing with things much more together than Frasier currently had them, and throwing him through a loop on where he was with his own life and what was going on with them, by comparison. So I can see that being a really fun one of him sort of, Frasier kind of warning everyone of what Bulldog's like, and then being confronted by this changed man and finding himself questioning his own life as a result. Yeah. I can definitely see that working, Stu. Yeah.
And it's not, I think, unreasonable, because I've also forgotten the actor's name, which is unforgivable. But he and Kelsey are in real life very good friends who have worked together an awful lot. So they're almost an ensemble between the two of them. So yeah, I can definitely see the potential for it.
I hadn't realized that personal relationship between them. So yep, sounds very, very feasible that he might pop up.
I think it's one of the reasons why they had such good chemistry on screen together, as well. Is that
one thing? One quick. Sorry, Stu.
No. Go on.
I was just going to say one thing sort of off the back of this conversation, I think, is that as the first season goes on, and particularly once we get to those Lilith and Roz cameos, I I really I really like Frasier to avoid being a repeat of Picard, where you do a show about this character later in their life. For non Star Trek fans, Picard is the next generation Star Trek spin off about the captain, where the early seasons started with him and a completely or almost completely new band of supporting cast members, and then slowly both the main star and the studio and everyone involved began to see the mileage of bringing back old faces, and eventually cast members on the show were basically being booted out to accommodate returning faces from Next Generation instead. And I really don't want to see this iteration of Frasier take that path. I can see it happening all too easily if it has enough success to draw those old names back. And as much as I enjoy, these cameos and could maybe see one or two a push cast members coming back with some regularity to it, like I think it would be really sad to get to if we were to get to a season 4 of this, to see Niles and Roz and Daphne all on set, and to have Eve moved out of Boston, and to have David sent packing back to Seattle, and if you're going to do a reboot and you can't get those cast members on board at the ground floor, treat the cast you do get with respect, and make it their show.
Definitely. I think the original run of Frasier handled that really well in the way they introduced members of the Cheers cast.
Yes,
you had just an episode. I think it was called the episode where Sam turns up, or and you've got Woody Harrelson, and there was that one episode where they even went to Boston, and you had almost the whole cast of Cheers there, but that was great. There was such standalone. It was like, we're going to visit this, but we're only visiting. And I think, so if they're led by that or guided by that approach, should be fine. Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed. Yeah.
Fantastic. So, any more thoughts on Trivial Pursuit?
I think that is everything for this one, Stu.
It is from me. But do you know what? Let's throw this out to the viewers. What character do they want to see back? What do you want to see back? BB Glazer, Kenny, the station manager. I'm trying to think of Kate Costas. What's she up to these days?
There's no shortage of people who could return. So, including a lot of people who are very big celebrities now, who were somewhat famous when Frasier was originally on air, but would be even bigger names to have back now. So yeah, interesting to see what happens. Let us know who you want to see in the comments.
Definitely. We'll look forward to that, and we'll look forward to seeing you next week, when we'll be looking at Frasier episode 5. In the meantime, thanks for watching, and good mental health. I got it now. Yeah. Take care, everyone. Bye.
Bye.